Education has been a building block for the Midland community. Although in our city's infancy, we have experienced numerous challenges due to segregation. With dogged determination, the fight to ensure quality education for our children has remained in the forefront. This is Midland, our city, our stories. The commitment of those in our minority community that have called Midland home made them refuse to settle. They have continued to fight and seek ways, although it brought friction, for equality for our children's education and future. It was the right thing to do, to move toward solutions that would benefit all of our citizens. This has not been perfect, not by a long shot. But the goal was and is to provide the best quality education for our children. Let's have a seat.
So after my great-grandparents had lived in the dugout and had a couple of children, they had a home in Midland, and it was downtown Midland where what we called the Twin Towers, where the Wells Fargo building and was. And that house had 5 water wells around it and a water wheel, and they were one of the first homes to have hydroelectricity in Midland. Well, that home was moved to where Midland High School is now. And Cowden Junior High was built on that land. And then Cowden Junior High, the Midland Independent School District, went to my granddad at that point, Bum Cowden, and asked if they could move Cowden Junior High and or build Cowden Junior High, move the house to Midland High School. So that's what they did. Later on, Cowden Junior High, they came back because my grandparents still owned that land. And they came back and said, Bum, can we sell this land and because we need to build another high school? And Granddad said, yes, you can sell the land as long as it does go for another high school, and that's how Lee High School was built.
I grew up on South End Street, across the street from my good friend Tevis Hurd, who lived in the house across. We would play in the dirt street. It wasn't paved at the time, and we would get our cowboy boots on and shoot at the trains that were passing by down on Industrial, what is now Industrial. That was a very nice neighborhood in those days, right about a block from West Elementary, where everybody went to school for elementary. I went to Miss Thompson's first grade because my mother wanted me to be in school when I was 6, and I turned 6 on September 5th, and September 1st was the cutoff. So she put me in the private school where I could take first grade, and then when I got to West Elementary, they promoted me to second grade when I got there. And I was at West Elementary, and then we moved to North Elementary. North Elementary and is across the street, or just about where Concho is now. The Concho or Permian, what are they now? ConocoPhillips today. Concho at the time. It's right there in that area, and that's where we went to junior high until we got to Sam Houston Elementary. Back then, Midland began to boom with the Sprayberry boom in the 50s. The first real finding of oil out here in this area. And people flocked to Midland. In fact, my future husband came at that time. He was born in Duluth, Minnesota, but he came to Midland during the 50s after he was in the Korean War, because that's when all the young people were coming. George H.W. Bush, our president, came here at that time. And they were building this will come as a surprise to everybody, but we were building an elementary school a year back then, We had bond issues all the time to build these elementary schools, and that's where I went to school.
Growing up, I went to the public school system for about a year and realized that being disabled in the schools was not quite good back then. The kids really did not understand why I was in a chair and why I couldn't walk. So then I went to the Cerebral Palsy Center, which is now called the Children's Rehab Center. And I went to school there for 5.5 years. I say 5.5 because at 5.5 years, I was mainstreamed into the public school system. They decided it's time that we bring disabled individuals into the school system.
African American educators were excellent instructors. What people forget is the facilities and equipment may have been inferior, but those teachers took what they had and produced excellence. They taught with a commitment that now you look back on it is indescribable.
A Mexican or a black person kid, when they were in junior high, they went to junior high, and you graduate from that and then you go into high school. Well, they separated the whites over there, went to high school, and the Negroes and the Mexicans, they went to barracks. In fact, I can show you the buildings down there, and that's where they went. They separated them.
When I got to Midland, I was about 6 years old, and I attended Carver School, and it was part elementary at that time. Well, I remember, being really frightened, actually, because I wasn't used to as many children being in a classroom. And the children were more boisterous than the children I remember in East Texas. And of course, coming from the country, as they call it, they kind of teased us a lot for being country. When we were going to school, there was no bus picking us up. So we walked to school, and we walked from Mineola all the way to Cross Highway 80, and sometimes the train was there, and we didn't know how long it would be there. So we would look both ways, and then we would crawl under. And, everybody would say, rushing everybody through, come on, come on. And every now and then, someone would yell out, it's going to move, it's going to move. But we were trying to get across so we wouldn't be late for school.
One of the things that helped me become successful educationally, if there is such a word, or through the education system in Midland, is the fact that my parents pushed us to get an education. And the fact that I went to segregated schools in Midland actually helped me, because the teachers at Bunch Elementary School, where I went, and Carver Junior Senior High School saw to it that every child was getting an education. My father taught science 7th and 8th grade at Carver. I had my father for a science teacher. My father was not the easiest teacher I've ever had, and I thought he was being harder on me because I was his son. He wasn't. He was hard on everybody, because my father grew up in southern Louisiana, where things were not always easy. And I think he wanted to make sure that the black kids he taught would learn something that they could use that would help them later on in life.
Everything wasn't a bed of roses, I can assure you. There were valleys and plateaus. But the important thing, as a result of that initiative on the part of community to establish single-member districts, is this. It afforded individuals who otherwise would not be able to run for school board with an at-large system the opportunity to participate in the process.
My mother was very involved in the education process in Midland. She and a group of interveners sued the Midland School Board to force integration of our public schools so that all children have equal access to opportunity to learn. That was part of her legacy. There is a high school named after my mother.
They were insistent that black students excel because given the discriminatory practices, the Jim Crow and racism of the day, they instilled in students the fact that they had only one choice, and that was to excel.
I loved the cluster system. And let me tell you why. I saw children come from Burnett, Fannin, they came to South. Fannin, South, all of the sixth grade schools were on the South side on purpose because people said, we don't want our young children going to the South side. The children said to us, we got the best education on the South side of town because you guys weren't afraid of our parents. I got so tickled when they said that.
As a result, we got a cross-section of ideas and concepts, though in many instances there was disagreement. But we certainly did work to come to workable compromises that resulted in improved facilities, enhanced academic performance, and that's still an issue today. But I feel very good that it opened up the avenues for other people, other individuals to participate.
My son is part of it, was in the cluster system, fifth grade, started fifth grade. He wanted to know, Mama, how will I know who to meet? I said, you look out across all of those kids and you find the ones who look as scared as you feel. I said, you know all the black kids, go get to know the white kids. Well, they are still friends. They are very close, and it's been, 40-something years that they've been together, and they're still close.
Well, as I remember, the hardest thing was trying to get them to participate in the different activities, and it seemed like the announcements would be made, but they didn't consider those announcements meant them, you know. So they would not participate. Now athletics, I don't know anything about that, but the programs of the other activities in the school. I remember once a young lady I was a counselor, so the young lady wanted me to change her class because she was the only one in an honors class. And she wanted to come out of this honors class and go into one of the regular classes where the other kids were. So my comment to that was, if your mother comes down here and tells me she wants you out, I'll take you out. But other than that, I won't take you out of that class. She was doing real well in the class, so she stayed in the class. But I remember as a counselor, I tried to get them to prepare for college. And one of the ladies that had very good grades, and I called her in and I told her, I said, if you keep your grades up, I'll try to help you get a scholarship. You know, that was when we had the local giving scholarships. And she told me, you're trying to make me white. Well, you know, how do you take that? I'm not trying to make her white. I just thought she could go to college. But it was really hard to get them to participate in things. My daughter was a cheerleader, but none of the other girls, they could have been cheerleaders too. But they would not go out and participate. They didn't want to be in the honors classes. They didn't want to participate in other things. So they were afraid to. They'd lose their friends.
What is on the inside of that kid? And their parents were as apprehensive, all of them, the black, the brown, and the white parents were very apprehensive about their children getting on that bus and going across town. And let me tell you what, that's one of the very best things that happened in the school district, because the children had a support system. They could go any place in Midland, and they felt safe, because if they came to the Pease neighborhood, they knew the Pease parents. When they came to the south side, the Fannin kids, they knew one another. They supported one, even when they split, because ninth grade is where they had to declare whether they were going to leave Midland High School.
I spent 33 years on the board, but in the course of working with other persons in the community, we were able to exact particular change in Midland.
And I saw the town come together like this because those young people are my son's age. They're 56, 57, 58, 59. But some of them moved, but they're still here, and they know one another. And they liked one another and still support each other. And that cluster system, I tell folk all the time, it brought the rich, the poor, everybody together.
I've always been so blessed to have just a group of parents and students that loved me and loved even when I was disciplining them. They loved me, and their parents loved me, and their parents would say, get him. Miss McAfee, get him. It was Miss Walker at the time. Get him. You know, you got our support. Go. You know. And so I've really had a fabulous career with some wonderful pluses.
And Midland takes care of its own. There's a lot of good people here who will give of their time and resources to help those that are less fortunate. And that's one of the things I love about Midland. Now, I'll admit, Midland's not the prettiest place, but it has the friendliest people.
Well, in answer to the question that so many people ask me daily, what are we still doing in Midland? And I absolutely love my husband, and the fact that he is just so passionate about speaking out and helping the marginalized people. And we definitely need that in our society. We definitely need that. And I'm so proud of him that he'll come in, and I mean, you know, we're both retired, so he'll start getting dressed, and I say, well, where are you going? I'm going to the school board meeting. And I'm just like, okay, It's sort of like going to a football game and you don't know anybody that's playing or something, it's sort of like, but he is so passionate about speaking out and speaking up and being for the person that is not, doesn't have enough courage to, or doesn't feel like that they can say the right words to make a difference. And I mean, if it's something that is going on in Midland, Texas, John McAfee is going to be there.
Some of the things that I've seen that have helped Midland progress has to do with education. And as we all know, education is the multiplier. And so in the early 80s, Midland was going through a downturn, and Gladys Abel, George Abel's wife, decided to do a scholarship for all of the graduating seniors from Midland High School and Lee High School to be able to go to Midland College debt-free. And so that scholarship was begun by the Abel Hanger Foundation, and it continues today. And other foundations have stood up and participated in that now. And it just shows how important this community stresses education. And there's a lot of young people from different ethnicities who have really made it in the sports arena, and you hear their name in national football teams and in baseball teams. And so that's also a legacy of Midland is the sports.
I personally take pride in knowing that I had a contribution to make as it relates to upgrading our elementary schools to the standard of the most recently built elementary school, adding additions to our secondary schools, both middle school and high school, making sure that as best we could provide equipment and facilities that would result in the production of academically sound students.
My mom had always told me, son, when you dress for success. And I ingrained it into myself. So the entire time I was in Terrell, I wore a coat and tie every single day. When I came here, it was not going to be any different here. However, I did find out that when I went to a principal meeting, half the guys had on shirts and blue jeans and cowboy boots, but that didn't change me because I knew that the students I was working with needed someone to be an example or to look forward to reaching to like I did when I was growing up. Because I grew up wanting to be just like those teachers that I had in my classroom. If you don't have anyone to emulate or look forward to or reason to think that you can be in that particular position and look in that particular way, then they're not going to try as hard. And I also believed in getting out and mixing and mingling with the children. I went into every classroom. I taught different classes. I'd go into a classroom and just tell the teacher, go take a break. Because I'm in elementary school, so I could teach every subject there. I had a BS in elementary along with my history, but I also had a master's in elementary education. And I had also gotten a doctorate in SCI, which was supervision, curriculum, and instruction. So I studied the different people on effective teaching methods and teaching presentation from the likes of Madeline Hunter and I think it's James Conrad Bryant from Harvard. But they always suggested an identification with the kids. If you want to, the best you can get out of kids is when they feel that they can come to you, they feel that you are one of them. But I not only wanted to be one of them, but I wanted them to be one of me, or like me.
So that's my parents' legacy, I think, is improving the healthcare system, improving the educational system in Midland, and the legacy that I hope that I and my wife leave is bringing attention to those less fortunate, the homeless, so that they can receive the resources they need to become productive citizens of Midland.
Naming the school after Barbara B. Yarbrough is quite humbling. It's humbling. And it is a tribute to my children, their parents, and God. I tell you, God put us all together, because I told them, I said, had it not been for God putting me there, putting you in that classroom with me, and your parents trusting me with their most prized possession, you, it would not have happened, because I was having my pity party, and Lord, you know I don't want to be at this school. I want to be over there with peace. The little black kids need me. And the voice said to me, I said, you ought to work with people. Scared me to pieces in room 109 at South Elementary, because I knew the custodians had gone home. And I was just walking and praying over my desk, blessing for the next day. And that voice came out in that room. And I shut my mouth, and I've been on my job ever since, because I found out something. I remembered back to what my uncle said. You're always entertaining God's angels. Teaching school is a ministry, because you are working with the people who are going to take care of you when you can't clean your own self. You can't brush your teeth, comb your hair, and clean your behind. Guess what? They are there. I've had them to take care of me. And this is a ministry. So since you have them in there, you're supposed to give them your very best. Your very best. Because they are God's angels.
What education teaches us is that we are the sum total of all of our experiences. If it is true that children are the future, every effort must be made to guarantee that that future will be bright. We must continue to pour into every student as if they are our own child, and encourage them, especially when things get tough, to stick with their education. The cluster system was meant to allow students of all races to acquire an excellent education by utilizing equal resources. There are pros and cons to everything, and the cluster system is no different. But what it did make room for was for all students, regardless of race, to interact and learn from each other. We'd love to hear from you and know about your story. I'm Michael Williams. Thank you for joining us as we continue this important conversation on diversity. Midland, our city, our stories. Good night.
I do think that we have different cultures around the city that we don't know about, and I think it's our duty to want to learn more about it.
I like to see something in Midland, like a parade and maybe a band with Midland High or Legacy High, and lots of floats.